This is Eric Rutan of Cannibal Corpse. You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast with Andrew McKay Smith.
Greetings, hope you're well. I've got a cracker of a conversation to share with you featuring Derek Boyer from the mighty Suffocation. The catalyst for the chat is due to the launch of the group's second ever live album. It's titled Live in North America, and if you're yet to hear it, please get in touch with me if you have heard a better live extreme metal album. The lads have just knocked it right out of the bloody park on this one here, let me tell you. Apart from the talking about the live album, I'm a bassist, Derek's a bassist, so we talk about bass. He even sent me through some pictures of some designs that turned into a reality for a new bass guitar. Amps feature as well, a few other things. If you're a musician, but more specifically a bass guitarist, you're going to love this conversation. Before we dive in though, I want to give you a sample of the live album. This is a tune titled Funeral Inception. Once it's done, we'll dive into the chat. There he is. How you going, mate?
Hey, how's it going? I love that about Australia. It's how you going, not how you doing. I love that. How you going? How am I going? I guess I'm going well. I'm going good. How you going?
Mate, all these little cultural inflections that we have, we don't realise that we...
it's funny. Yeah.
We've got.
It's like, no, how you doing? No, how are you doing? Not how you going. But it's the same thing in the end. I love it. How's it going, bro?
Cool, brother. Yeah, no, it's good. I'm glad to be talking to you. I tell you what, it's been a busy week for Nuclear Blast artists. I've spoke to the guitars from a Pathology yesterday. I've got Gary Holt tomorrow, and I've got you now. So it's great. It's killer.
Nice. Yeah, I was just looking over the Nuclear Blast schedule, and it's very busy. I think the pandemic kind of, shocked a bunch of bands into doing stuff, rather than being on the road, they're, doing the studio thing. And so a lot of new releases, a lot of new press, it makes sense.
How's that been for you guys, given that, the touring thing, because that's your lifeblood, right?
We're horrible. We're an old school band. We're not a big fan of the new internet sensation success that so many of these young bands are doing. We're old school. We want to go hit the road. We want to play the shows and earn our spot. We don't want the, oh, wow, these guys got a lot of hits on YouTube. That's not real to us. And I know that it's very relevant in this day and age. You have to have a web presence and a YouTube channel that's successful. And we're just not that band. We're just an old school band. Every couple of years, we'll give you a record and we'll go around the world a couple of times to support that record. And it's just, man, we did not utilize this free time properly. I mean, we wrote material, which was very good, but, we'd rather be on the road than in the studio. And, with the option to be on the road being taken away from us, I feel like in my personal experience, in my personal standpoint, I just felt depressed. Rather than going, hey, this is a great time to get on YouTube, I just went, fuck, this sucks. We can't play. It's been 20 months. We got interrupted in the middle of a European tour, and it was like, everybody go home. And we're like, what do you mean? And they're like, well, there's a worldwide pandemic. Get to your homes. And we were in Europe, and it was like, fuck this, so I stayed back in Germany with my girl for 3 months, actually got trapped, which wasn't the worst thing, but got stuck in Europe for about 3 months when the whole thing hit. And like I said, it was actually pretty nice. But at the end of the day, this whole thing of, being forced to not be able to play the shows, it's a nightmare to a band like us. It's what we do,
Yeah, totally. Yeah, there's you and a bunch of others that fall into that category. It's
big time. I think the old school bands.
Yeah, definitely. And when you say you don't feel like as though you use that time to be productive, I think a lot of other bands were in the same category too. I mean, what are you supposed to do? I mean, you're effectively a musician, sure, but you're a professional tourist. That's what you do.
Right. We like to perform, and that was taken from us. So it was depressing, and I think it's just about to start. November, we have 4 shows. So we just got to basically make it through October. And we just, with Nuclear Blast, we're going to do a record. So it's time to buckle down. And, we got about half the new album done. And it's like, okay, let's crank on some more material. And then, November, we've got shows. And, hopefully the whole thing fires back up. We're supposed to be back in Europe for a one-off in December. And that'll kind of be the test. Can we successfully cross the ocean and perform? Playing here in the U.S., we just saw Deicide do it. Internal Bleeding did it. Mm-hmm. It's possible on home turf. And we're in another totally fucked up position. Our drummer's Canadian. And, the most we've ever waited for a work visa was a month and a half. You pay all this money and they process a paperwork that says this Canadian can come to the U.S. and earn money. To do everything legit. The last thing we need is, him to illegally cross the border and earn money and then get in trouble. Yeah. And we've seen other musicians come and play the U.S. without work papers and get banned. And so the last thing we need is our drummer to be, stricken from the U.S. So, basically they didn't process his visa. We had to cancel the show last month. Now we got November shows coming. We stopped that process and we paid the whole expedite fee. It's like fucking $3,500 to expedite his work paperwork. And it's like, what happens if it still doesn't get processed? Now what? We're going to have to cancel all the November shows too? Like, this is crazy. So the pandemic has made it just a nightmare for us. Like if we were all American or all Canadian or all European, maybe it would be a little easier. But, the band's an American New York band and we got a Canadian drummer and he's not far from us. He can get to us in a, quick. He can just cross the border and drive right down. But the fact that he doesn't have his work papers, so we're now at the mercy of waiting on his work papers. And what we don't want to do is, go play these first shows back with a fill-in drummer. Because we've already talked about it. Wow, can Dave Colross come back? Can Kevin Talley come back? Who knows the material? Who's good enough? Who could hop in and do the job? But we're like, man, after, almost a 2-year hiatus, kind of the last thing we want to do is show up with the wrong lineup. Like, holy shit, we want to show up with our guys, not a fill-in.
There's no doubt. Yeah, there's no doubt. Yeah, great insight. Thanks, mate. Yeah, on that one there. Yeah, it's a shit of a thing, this whole thing, in just offering my 2 cents on the political motivations behind the pandemic. I think for the first couple of months when we didn't understand, or governments didn't understand what was going to happen when people became infected. But now that it's abundantly clear, something like 7 out of 10, 70% of them have got the vaccine twice, and even the boosters, I understand. So we're in a position where, and it's got to be said too, that the people, the comorbidity factor hasn't been taken into account here. Okay, so the people that are dying from COVID, they've usually got something else as well, like 99% of the time. I understand it. Right. Look, it's very hard to get statistics on this because, of course, there's a lot of obfuscation with the social media platforms. But
crazy.
It just feels like I'm not a conspiracy theorist at all. I'll be upfront with you now on that point. But it just feels like as if it's been an opportunity to exert a whole bunch of control for no particularly valid reason.
They want control for some reason. Right.
Yeah, for some reason. And it's like, why do you want to control us? Why do you need to control mass control of these populations? It's just
those percentage of people that are in power feel they need absolute power for some strange reason. Like, get on with your life, do something for yourself. Why do you need to control others? But this could very, very easily, like you said, without going into conspiracy, this could very easily be a control issue. They want to get everybody under their thumb and say, you're going to be vaccinated and we're going to put whatever we want in this vaccine and you're going to get it. We're seeing mandates. These people, you don't get the shot, you're fucking fired. doctors, lawyers, like important people, getting, saying, hey, I don't want to get this. I don't want to get the shot. And the next thing you know, they're losing their careers. So who knows, who really knows the whole thing? I just want to play some damn death metal.
You do. And look, I've got to say, I do love this live album here. You guys have always been an exceptional live outfit. So Live in North America, that's the name of Suffocation's second ever live album. And I suppose it's a commemoration in some ways of Frank's final shows. But I think it's a bit more than that, in that it just demonstrates and articulates your significant live performance chops as a band. There's very few bands out there that are like you guys. So
yeah, we're one of those live ones. Yep.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Yeah. Look, prior to recording the shows, did you have a live album in mind, or did you have a listen back to the tapes?
It was one of those things where Frank, we'd known Frank's been kind of trying to retire for a long time. He's got a really good state job where, he's working on a pension, retirement, all this stuff. And, we're a long-standing band, and Frank's like, look, I don't want to be doing this when I'm 70, and he's like 50, or whatever. And so, the rest of us were like, we can keep doing this. We still have it in us. But Frank kind of just been saying, like I said, for a while, hey, I want to wrap this up. Hey, I want to wrap this up. And I got the idea that the guy who was doing our live sound had the capability to record multi-track every night. So, every night after the show, he'd hand me a file. And it would be, kick drum, snare drum, toms, and hi-hats, all individual tracks, just like you would record in the studio. And we would sit back and, do a rough mix and listen to it and go, oh, man, we played super good. But, the microphone got unplugged on this, blah, blah, blah. Okay, this show's no good. And this show, man, everything went great, but we kind of didn't play with the fire that we like to, want to portray. And just the particular show in Cambridge, everybody was on fire. Nothing went wrong majorly, so we were like, okay, this is a good show. Let's get this out. Let's get this mixed, and presented it to Nuclear Blast, and they were like, killer, and it's a good sign off for Frank, to be a farewell. It was kind of Frank's North American farewell tour. And the fact that we happened to, capture a great performance that represents what the band is. And, we probably could have put out a number of those shows and it would have had the same effect, but there was just something magical about that one particular show. And like we were saying, we wish, CDs and albums were longer because we had to take down all of the banter, and Frank's pretty much known for all his bullshit that he says between songs. We had to remove that. Some of these we couldn't even, I think with the album, the vinyl, they were like, hey man, the whole thing doesn't even fit. Like, are you willing to cut songs off of this show to make it fit on an album, on an LP? And we were like, fuck, what can we do? And I think they ended up doing a double LP. Yeah. I could be wrong, but that we were running into a situation where you either had to cut songs or they might put it on a dual LP. I forget what we ended up doing, but the idea is that we had to like kind of trim the thing down. And at the end of the day, it's still, a great representation of who we are and what we are. I don't think we cut off anything important other than, it would have been fun to hear Frank's bullshit that he likes to talk so much.
Look, he can hear I'm a bass player too, and you can hear your bass guitar work very clearly through the recording. So
awesome.
You obviously had a lot to say in regards to how the live album was mixed.
Yeah.
Killer.
Yep. I mean, basically the capturing of the audio and the mixing of the audio, even the layout of the album, it's all me. I said to the guys, hey, what do you guys think about a live album? They said, great. So I went ahead and got all the audio and I said, hey, what do you guys think about this engineer to mix it? We'll go back and forth with the guy. I think we went back and forth with him like 6 times or something until we got, just the way we wanted it. And, that's excessive. We probably could have went with the first or second thing that he did. But, being that you got 5 creative minds, when I thought it was fine, the drummer went, wait, the snare's got to come up. And then when that was done, then Terrence went, well, the guitar solos are too low, and so we had to go back and forth until we got it right. But I do feel that I had a lot to say and a lot to do with actually making it happen. And I kind of fought, with everybody, not internally in the band, but like, hey man, are we going to do this to management? Hey, management, can you get this off to Nuclear Blast and see if they're interested? And a lot of back and forth. And then, I got with the photographers and, got the material, and then got with the artists and got the album cover. And, I kind of did a lot of it, but it was something that I wanted to do, to show the world that, okay, we can go X amount of years between albums, but what most of the world knows, Suffocation is playing abroad.
Mm-hmm.
Some people that are in remote areas, they just say maybe we're sleeping for a few years between albums, but the idea is that we're out playing. And if we can show the world that doesn't know what we're doing, that, hey, this is what we've been doing between this last album and this next album. So it's just something kind of felt like the right thing to do, to just stick something out there. And we like it. So we think it's going to go over okay.
Oh, it definitely will go over okay. Yeah, I had it on last night as I was making dinner for the kids, and it sounds killer. This is a good point. It sounds killer with these things in AirPods, as well as it does over the speakers on the iPhone, which I think is really important.
I was surprised that it sounded as good as it did right through a phone.
Yeah, big time.
That's technology for you. Because back in the day, you used to have a decent speaker system or a decent car stereo, and nowadays, like, maybe it's the digital world, but out of a phone, it sounded great. In the AirPods, it sounded awesome. Even sounds great out of my little laptop, but we're just pretty stoked on how it all worked out.
When you were listening back to the guitars in particular, was there anything about the way yourself, Terence, and Charlie locked in that, I wouldn't say surprised you, but you were like, oh, wow, I didn't realize we sounded like that?
You know what? Sometimes we do surprise ourselves. Like, we'll come off of a show and, be like, wow, man, we played tight. That felt really good. And then to hear a reproduction of that show and go, wow, man, the boys, we're locking in. We know that the drummer's on fire. And, if we can all hear properly on stage, which we've got pretty worked out this late in the game, we know what we need in our monitors and stuff. But when we really lock in like that, it's just a really nice feeling to hear it back after the fact and go, wow, we felt really tight. And to hear it go, wow, man, that really felt good. And here's the proof that it is good. Mm-hmm. Because, sometimes you think you might be able to trick yourself and go, wow, I played great. And then the other guys in the band are like, no, it wasn't really that good of a night for me. Where after this particular show, we all kind of looked at each other and we're like, yeah, that was a great show. Mm-hmm. And then we got the files from the engineer and we played it back really raw, no real effects or real mix on it. And we all kind of looked at each other and said, this is the one. We still have X amount more shows on the tour and we'll continue to capture them. But I kind of, bookmarked that one mentally and said, okay, we're going to come back to this particular file. I think it was a toss up between Dallas and, maybe one or two other ones, but there was something about the Cambridge show. That's like right near Boston in Massachusetts, East Coast, that we just kind of said, this is the one, but it's a blast, man. When we all lock in and just are all nailing it, it's super satisfying,
Yeah. What about with Ricky? Have you had an opportunity to perform live with him yet? Just with him?
Oh yeah, Ricky's been doing it with us for almost 5 years. A lot of people, if we don't get to your territory, if we don't get to your territory, you probably still assume, okay, it's just Frank, and you hear rumors or you see pictures on the internet of Ricky, and you wonder, has he just done one show? Ricky's done probably hundreds of shows with the band. He's no stranger. He knows the material. He and Frank are actually really good buddies. They get the whole football thing in common, and they're just great. They're cool with each other. Frank's always promoting, the fact, you'll even hear it on the live album, hey, Frank's like, look, I'm stepping down, but Ricky's going to carry the torch. I don't know if you've heard the entire live album, but Frank even mentions that Ricky will be taking over in his position, like they're passing the torch, literally. So, but yeah, no, Ricky's done really, really good. And he's honestly, being a drummer, he had all the rhythmic stuff down, and he's really, really just shaped up as far as his tone, because being a drummer, like we said, he had the timing right, and he was sharp enough to, to play the stuff right. But like lately, his sound has just gotten so good. He's gotten really, really good with his tones and all that stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Whereabouts did you recruit him from? Is he from another band or?
Yeah, Ricky's the drummer of a band out of California called Disgorge.
Okay. Yeah.
And a lot of people knew that, he was the drummer of this band. Suffocation and Disgorge had done tours together. we've always been friends with him. I used to play in Discourage back in 1996. And so one day, Frank on tour in California, talking shit on the mic, saying, I'm not going to be doing this forever. Ricky was at the show, came up to us and said, I want to audition. And we all kind of didn't really take him that serious because he's a drummer, not a front man. And I sent him off. He and I were good friends. I sent him off an instrumental version of, I think, Cycles of Suffering or Cataclysmic Purification. I can't remember what I sent him. And he sent it back, and we were all really surprised how much he sounded like Frank. And, we said, hey, are you, really willing to get out from behind the drum set and front a major band like Suffocation? And he said, yeah. And he learned the set, showed up, did the audition. We gave him the spot. He did it for a while. And then there was a brief moment where he wasn't doing it with us. And we went through another guy or another temporary something where Frank came back. And then he came back stronger than ever. And he is now a permanent fixture fronting the band. So next time anyone sees Suffocation, it will be with Ricky.
Okay, sweet. Yeah. So does that mean you've had an opportunity to work on some songs together?
Yeah, Ricky's actually sang. Yeah, Ricky's already sang on the whole, everything that we have for the new live album has been recorded. Pre-production has been done with Ricky. Okay. And, when the last studio album we did with Frank, so let's go even one further back, not the most recent one of The Dark Light, but if you go back to Pinnacle, when we had Frank in the studio for Pinnacle, he's like, I'm not doing this again. And then, X amount of years went by and we go, Frank, we got an album, get in the studio. And he goes, I told you assholes, I'm not doing this again. And we were able to talk him into doing Of the Dark Light, kind of against his will. He knew that he was done, and he did it. But he the whole time was kind of kicking and screaming, saying, all right, you guys, you got lucky. I'm not doing this again. So I told you I wasn't doing it again. You got me. Don't ask me again. I'll hang up on you, because he just basically, as much as he loved it at a point, he's done with it, and he's done his monumental, mark on the scene, and, what he's done on the albums over the years and what he's done live. And we all just respect Frank, for what he'd done. And hey, if these are the choices that he wants to make, if he wants to stay home, let him. We're going to continue doing what we love. And it's sad to say that in our position, the singer is kind of not as important as, let's say, a Terrence Hobbs or a really good drummer. And it's bizarre because from the band's perspective, who's fronting the band and singing, as long as they sound like Frank and are on time and doing a good job, we don't think it's that big of a deal. But, go ahead and pull Axl Rose out of Guns N' Roses and see what the world says. They're not going to be so happy about it. So Ricky's got a lot of proving to do, and he's done great. The fans have accepted him. I mean, you never really know what people, they really want to see, who they want to see. But when they see a good job, a job well done, they can't really say, well, that sucked. They can say, well, I wish it was Frank, but Ricky did do a very good job. So at the end of the day, we're not worried about it, but we'll see how the industry, takes it now that Frank is officially stepping down with his farewell in the liner notes of the new live album. It's like, this is Frank's final performance. And if you saw him, great. If you didn't, too bad, because you won't be seeing him again. He won't be making any guest appearances. He's just done.
He's done. Yeah.
But that's okay.
I think your legacy is assured. I don't think there's any question of that one there. So I think moving forward, the work that you do with Terry is just going to be a continuation of that. I mean, you've got those early albums are godlike, and they are the tech death
big time
template from which, if those albums didn't happen, I say this to so many people, like in bands like Suffocation, that you're in a position where if those albums don't come out, music doesn't sound the same afterwards. It has a significant influence. Like I spoke to Cam Lee, for example, last week, and I said, look, he's the bridge between the work that Jeff Becerra was doing and then what Chuck did.
Yeah.
You're right. So it doesn't evolve unless people like Cam and you guys are doing what you do. But there's something else, which is that your bass playing. You certainly are. I mean, you can play bass. There's no two ways about it. But you've got a killer stage presence as well. That stage that stage presence you've got, I think, is very important, because unless you're looking at something that's visually and aesthetically pleasing from the crowd's perspective, especially someone who's getting a bit older like myself, I wouldn't go near a pit these days. I'd probably get killed. But you're putting on a show within a show yourself. So that technique of playing it like a cello the way you do.
Yeah, upright.
Is that something that is that intentional, or is that just something that fits your playing? Yeah.
The weirdest thing about that was I had a traditional footing, a traditional stance. And on June 6th, 2006, the date literally read 666. We went to a stripper pole, open bar, dying fetus party, 666 party, June 6th, 2006. Open bar, stripper pole, girls, dying fetus was playing, crazy show, crazy party. And, we said, Terrence, let's go. And he goes, no fucking way. I'm staying home and paint my door with goat's blood. I'm not going out, and that night I had broken both the bones between the knee and the ankle, the tibia and the fibia, multiple spiral fractures, leg was hanging off the side of me. And that was my main foot that I would keep all my weight on stage, in a traditional stance. And when that leg was broken, I didn't walk for 4 months. Luckily, it went right back together. So they didn't need to put plates of metal and screws. They didn't need to operate. They just, when the guy put it back, when he set it, he did such a good job that I didn't need the surgery for the metal screws and plates and all that stuff. But it took me a lot longer to learn how to walk again. I didn't walk for 4 months. And at that time, we were on a 7-week tour right when the casts were coming off. We had 7 weeks in the North America, Fear Factory, Suffocation, Hypocrisy, and Decapitated. Nice. Super good tour. Like really a strong, solid, and 7 weeks, pretty long tour for North America. And instead of me going to physical therapy to learn to get my range of motion back and someone to tug on me and tell me these exercises, and right when that was supposed to happen, the tour started. So I went out on tour with an unhabilitated leg. Mm-hmm. And I just had to switch my weight. I'm originally a skateboarder by trade. So I had to switch my footing instead of being like this lead foot. Now this is my lead foot. And I switched my stance, and the bass was just so fucking heavy that I kind of got this low crouch position, and I put the bass on the ground, and I went, wow, this is actually kind of cool. This is different. So through a mistake or through an accident, this new technique had developed. And it's funny because a couple of kids in the industry are doing it, and they didn't break their leg. They're just switching their footing and putting the bass on the ground. And it's difficult, if you have a bass like a Warlock or, something that's got a projected bottom, if it's just a Strat, you're going to be way too low. The bass is going to be way too low. And we've had it where the airlines lost all of our shit and we had to play a show, and I went to go into my stance and I'm playing somebody's Fender fucking P bass or something. And I literally put the bass on my foot because I couldn't, put it on the ground because it was not long enough of an instrument. But yeah, so, from this horrible thing came something really cool. And so now that my leg is completely rehabilitated, I have my normal footing and I have this switch stance footing where I put the bass on the ground. So yeah, sweet. Out of something fucked up came something cool.
Yeah, necessity is the mother of invention, as they say, isn't it?
That's right. That's what they say. Yeah.
Are you still playing the custom trap tool?
I am now playing a custom creature, which is one that I designed myself. And if you'd like, I can email it over to you. And it's really fascinating because I drew it in my phone with my finger and I presented it to the guy at the Devil's Choice. And I said, can you make this? And he goes, yeah. And I sent him over. If you want after this, I can email you these pictures. I don't know if you can fly them in or show them or just for your own personal use. Sure. But yeah, it's pretty similar to, see if I have it here on this laptop, pretty similar to the trap jaw, but a little bit different as far as, this is headless. And here we go. Devil's Choice. Let's see if this is probably a mock-up. Mm-hmm. Let's see, I can switch this right here.
Oh, nice.
This is a mock-up. That's like the neck. Warlock. Yeah, it's kind of Warlocky, but when I drew it, I designed it. Let's see if is there just him building it. Not sure if these pictures are as far along, him just building the neck and stuff like that. So anyway, either way, I can send over the final stuff, and it will be fun. It will be fun to show, what I'm playing now, but it's still Devil's Choice, and the stuff is killer. That guy just makes such good instruments, and I'm fortunate to be working with that guy. And he's out of Germany, and he's the greatest, nicest guy, really super good luthier, very open, to try different things, because, you could tell Jackson or BC Rich or anybody, hey, will you make me this thing I dreamt up? And they'll be like, yeah, sure, kid. And, we're just going to make our standard shapes. This guy will work with you, and kind of, if he believed in it, go for it. And so he made the prototype, which I played in Europe for, I think, 16 or 17 shows. And then he made me my copy. And it sucks because I think the prototype is a little bit sicker, but mine is a little bit overdone. 13-piece neck with red heart and wenge and ash and maple, like bizarre. The guy went all out. He had 5-piece body, 13-piece neck, multi-scale, headless, unholy Trinity pickups, and like just the guy went all out, and it's a beautiful instrument. But I'll send you over some pictures.
Yeah, that'd be nice. And the fan fret thing, you still liking that? Is that a part of it?
Yeah. The multi-scale fan fret. At first, I thought this is very odd. And I think if you played really upright, really square, it would probably be fucked up. But the fact that I play so up and down, it just worked. Yeah. It just kind of worked. And at first he goes, you want to do the multi-scale thing? And I said, no. Every bass I've ever played has been traditional square frets. And he goes, man, I think you'd really like it, being that you play such a vertical style instead of playing a horizontal style, you play more upright. He goes, I think it will work to your advantage. And I think it did. I feel like I like it, but unsure, of course, in the beginning.
Yeah. There's always that adjustment period, isn't there? Especially because 95% of basses out there that you can buy off the rack have the square, like my Music Man basses here. Yeah, the square.
What you're used to.
Yeah, you just get used to it. I definitely don't play the same style you do, but I certainly play. I got taught basses. You see, I'm one of those people who actually got lessons as a kid.
Great.
And I got taught, of course, back in the 90s, you were getting taught by people who played along to Ship from the Eagles and stuff like that. So I got taught to play like this. I still play like this because it's with the fingers, of course, again.
Comfortable. Yeah.
And it's you just learn different modes of attack is the word, I think, and just to be able to sort of cut through the mix, particularly as you well know, most of the time as a bassist, if you don't know the sound guy, you can't hear yourself.
Worst. Yeah.
That's probably happened a ton of times to you, has it? Where you've just been
in the beginning, absolutely. And it's like, I kind of learned, you got to have a good direct box, maybe carry your own microphones with you. And I mean, God, of course it helps it really helps to have, your own engineer with you to make sure that you don't get left out. Because if you go and you play a show, they usually think, okay, let's get the drums and the vocals and the guitars mixed, and bass is kind of like the last thing they need to worry about. As long as there's a little fullness, as long as there's a little low end underneath there, then they're good enough. But, people like me, I want my attack to be heard. I don't want to be buried in the mix. I mean, I don't need to be the loudest guy, but I definitely don't want to be inaudible, so having your own sound man or being able to bring your own microphones and your own DI boxes. And when we don't have an opportunity to bring a live engineer with us, I go make real nice handshake and talk to the engineer and tell him, hey, look, we're not one of those bands where you can just bury the bass. I'm going to give you a pretty driven signal. If you can get me, slamming with the kick drum and then put the guitars and the vocals on top of us, and, try to always just communicate with them. Because if you say nothing to them or you're rude to them, they're going to fucking ruin your night. You won't even be heard. So, and also when you try to counteract them and you go, I'm just going to be really loud, you're going to be so loud coming off the stage that they're not going to put you in the PA, so that's a trouble too, so you can't think, I'll fool him and crank it up. Doesn't work on stage. You'll rip everybody in the front row space off, but you won't even make it into the PA because you're too loud,
Yeah.
So
talking about ripping everybody's face off, until I watched a video of you talking about it, I didn't know that PV were doing a mega mini series. It's 1,000 watts.
fantastic. This little sucker's badass.
Yeah, was that? How did you? Have you still got a deal with Peavy? Is that how it works?
Yeah.
Was that through David Ellison, or how did you get that sorted?
We were with Dave in the very beginning, and Ellison's greatest dude. Such a good AR guy. And right now, we're working with Chris Kelly over there, who's fucking fantastic. Just best dude, great guy, believes in the band, good friend of ours. And he was taking care of our guitar players because we play the 6505. It's at the Plus. Yeah, the 6505 Plus guitar head. And then we went down to South America, and they had these little miniature versions of the guitar amp. And we couldn't believe how badass they were. They're literally like a third of the size of a normal guitar head can't even fit on screen. You know, the guitar amplifiers, these little things are like this big, and they rip. So at the same time, when they were coming out with the mini series, you know, Chris Kelly had presented to me, he goes, yo, we're putting out the mini mega, or the mega mini. I'm sorry, I always say that backwards, but the PV mini mega, and it's a beast. It's like 6 or 8 pounds, but it's 1,000 watt RMS. And I was like, you're kidding. Little class D rig. And I mean, I can run 8 10s. I can run 16 10s off this one little head, you know, like 2 stacks. Yeah. I like to run a head per stack.
So it's 2 ohm, is it? Must be 2.
I'm not sure the impedance on it. It's just badass little head for how small it is. It cranks. It sounds great. It's very versatile. A lot of little extra options that I don't even take advantage of that would be neat, you know, if you needed to. But yeah, it's great. It's very easy to travel with. I've turned a lot of other bass players onto it. They go, wow, what the hell are you playing? That little tiny thing. And it just sounds great. So yeah, I love it.
Yeah, I wish I could show you. I wish I could show you my rig, but it's over there. But I'm using a Gallien Kruger 2001 simply because it's 1100 watts, I think, and
can't go wrong.
Well, there's just too many, especially with 5-string. You get this. If you're using something that's off the rack, sort of 400, 600 watts, or whatever, it doesn't do
underpowered.
The job. Yeah, it
doesn't work.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
It breaks up.
But most of the manufacturers, they sit in that manufacturer sweet spot of between 6 and 800 watt, 4 and 800 watt. And I just find that, you know what you do, you end up overdriving everything, and so you get that distortion when you don't want it. It's a signal that's sort of
unnecessary distortion.
Yeah. It's horrible. And I'm playing cover, so I'm playing Kylie Minogue and Eagles songs and Beatles songs and Queen and this sort of stuff.
Sure, you need that consistent full tone.
Yeah. I'm going to say, so courtesy of you, I'm actually going to investigate that, because I mean, the other thing is my rig weighs. I think you guys don't use the kilogram system, but you go in pounds or what have you. But it's fucking heavy, man. Yeah, and eventually it's going to pull my back out. I need somebody to help me
big time take
everything.
Yeah, I used to play really heavy, physically heavy, not audibly heavy, but the physical weight. You know, to get. You know, 1,200 watts or 1,100 watts. They have big transistors, or, you know, these heads are massive. They weigh a lot. They're physically large. All of a sudden, these little Class D amps that are tiny sound great, you know, and they're consistent, you know, 1,000 watts RMS in a little tiny package. I didn't believe it at first. I said, yeah, right. That little thing can't rip. And I plugged the thing in, and to my surprise, I was blown away. So I haven't used that physically heavy amplifier since.
Yeah, I know it's just out of necessity at the moment. But when the technology is clearly catching up for us bass players to allow us to be heard through stuff which is relatively compact, and it's just a nice time to be alive from that perspective.
Yeah, big time. I agree.
Mate, I'll wrap things up. Thanks so much for doing what you've been doing.
My pleasure.
No worries. Well, it's been a great conversation. Congratulations on an outstanding career and for such great bass work too, man.
Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thanks, brother. All the best with everything. Well, there you have it, ladies and gents, my conversation with Derek Boyer from the mighty Suffocation. If you enjoyed that chat, there are many more just like it over at scarsandguitars.com. And on that note, if you could like, subscribe, share, and all of that bullshit, I'd appreciate it. Even better, leave a comment. Leave a nice comment, though. Nice is better than not nice. You know what I mean. My name's Andrew Mackay-Smith, and I'm the host of the Scars and Guitars podcast series. Until next time, it is a very goodbye for now.